So if you are going to go for physical needling, just feel confident. Where you're in a part of the body that hasn't got much flesh, then go oblique or transverse, or in the case of cats, they've got this whole skin bag. Like they've got a bag of skin over their inner skin, so you can just lift up the fur line skin bag and insert under there, and then kind of manipulate to the spot. But they don't have a lot of flesh on them, so obviously you don't try and penetrate too deeply. Even with horses, usually it's just, if I'm doing needle insertion, it's just a couple of millimeters. Watch for the needle response. So normally an animal treatment only takes a few minutes to 10 minutes, and then they're done. They've fully processed what they needed to get out of that session. One possible arc is you insert the needle, they get a surge of stress hormone, they get a bit more lively. If they're new to needling, they might get a bit surprised or show a bit of agitation, so that's where it's really important that you stay calm. And then the opposite will kick in, the parasympathetic kicks in, and they get really sleepy and they'll relax. And they'll give relaxation signs. So in horses, it's licking and chewing, yawning, closing the eyes, cocking the leg, changing posture. Cats is just squeezing the eyes, settling the body, kind of melting. If they had been flicking their tail before, if they were irritated with the feeling of the needle going in, then that tail will slow down and stop. And dogs as well, they'll sort of melt, and not usually wagging their tail because it's not an exciting feeling, but there might be a little tail wag if they had been in pain and now that pain is starting to move, just a little couple of taps with the tail, but they generally won't keep that up. And sighing as well, a nice sigh. And then after they've gone through that initial dip, this is after the first needle insertion, then their level of arousal might come up a little bit again, and then you can do the next insertion, and then they'll get that little spike in arousal, and they'll get the parasympathetic dip, and then there's a time when now those needles are making a circuit, and they'll just stay in that zen place. And then often you'll know that the treatment is finished because they'll give a big sigh, and you can take the needles out. So different kinds of feedback. I like to treat horses, if they're a safe horse, then with no halter. I like to treat them in the herd so that they can use their collective communication to tell me what's going on and support each other. If they're a horse that's a little bit nippy or kicky, I like to have someone just holding the halter, but with as much loose rope as possible, because I want the horse to be able to express itself. I would rather that it turns around and glares at me if I'm over a sore spot than if it's feeling restrained and then it suddenly feels like it needs to lash out. But as free and unencumbered as possible, basically, but being safe. The animal should feel free to say no, so species-specific no signs are really important. That's part of ongoing informed consent. A no can look like pinning the ears, scowling at you, like turning around and scowling at you, moving away. Hopefully it doesn't get to the point where they're lashing out by scratching or biting or kicking. But just keep your eyes open for more and more subtle no. It might be a shift of body away from you. And figure out what that no means. It might mean not there, or it might mean I don't like this. Like change what you're doing, or I don't want this at all, this whole session, I don't want it. And just have the confidence and the respect for the animal, but also the respect for yourself, just to call it a day. If you think it's a hard no, just take the hard no. Don't have a story about it. That's very important. So yeah, being on the lookout for those no signs, and then being on the lookout for those yes signs. So the yawning, licking and chewing, softening, melting, changes in tail position, all of those species-specific signs of relaxation and acceptance.